Katrin. Hello, Katrin. I want to see you up on the big screen for a minute. I'm wondering.
It's in the middle of the night here.
I know. Well, I'll say that now. I'm wondering, Katrin, if possible, do you have another light you can put in front of you? If it's too much problem, don't worry. We do have a pretty good picture. You and Michaela are troopers, that's for sure.
Night owls.
Yeah. Once again, I'm going to try and adjust to Jordan for that. Yeah, that's it, Jordan. See how you can see in your picture? Yeah, we want to see that blue. Because we want to see you.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Okay. So is everybody comfortable and has a glass of water or a pen and paper next to them? Okay, that's great. All right, I'm just going to take a couple of moments and just a couple of deep breaths and then we'll begin. Hello everybody, my name is Reenah Sun and I'm calling from down under Australia, and welcome to Face2Face. Who are we? We're a group of old friends and new friends from the ETTV forum. We've known each other from behind our icons in written words, and now we bring our meeting to a new dimension of face-to-face where we can see each other and feel each other's energy through the tonality of our voice and our facial expressions. So I'll just quickly introduce you to people. We have people from 3 different continents here today. Starting from the left, we have Katrin from Sweden, and it's 11 p.m. where she is. Then we have Gary from the US. I believe it's 5 p.m. where Gary is. And then we have Jordan, who's in North Dakota, 4 p.m. And then we have Michaela from Vienna, Austria, 11 p.m. And we have Ray, a fellow Aussie. He's in Sydney and it's 8 p.m. And of course for myself, I'm in Queensland, so it's 7 a.m. here. And here we are, all different times and even different days. It's Sunday night for a lot of you, and yet it's Monday morning here for a couple of us. Our topic is how spirituality translates into our life. I mean, obviously we believe something's working, otherwise we wouldn't keep coming back. And where does it fall short in our lives? Where do these teachings fall short in our lives? Many of us may come here for a different reason, and because there's 6 of us today, we will only have a limited time to share. So it may appear to us that we don't feel complete at the end of this sharing because we didn't get out what we wanted to. So let's bring our purpose a little bit wider and look at receiving one another. And what do we mean by receiving one another? In that we're a circle of friends here. We're a circle of friends on the ETTV forum, and we have a circle of friends in our day-to-day life. And people don't always agree with us. In fact, some people think we're a little bit crazy. And some people, you know, just simply don't understand us. And so I'd like us to also, rather than just sharing, make this an opportunity to perhaps look at our self-talk and perhaps even strategies. Some of us are more forceful, some of us are more quiet. I'm a pleaser and I can be wishy-washy sometimes, but I'm a good moderator because I can feel your energy. And so let's also make this about listening and giving ourselves the patience to allow ourselves to come up with something new and be with what's here now in a feeling sense, and looking at the beauty of the other as well as within ourselves, because sometimes even when people are ranting, they're beautiful. And let's look for this beauty in each other and share this. So welcome, friends. Would anybody like to share?
I'll start. I'm Ray, and I'm in just south of Sydney. It's like Reenah said, it's 8 a.m. because in Queensland they don't have daylight saving. They like to be different there. So it's 7 a.m. for her. I've been following Eki. We call him Eki here. Me and my friends. I have a few friends here that follow Eckhart Tolle, and that's our nickname for him. In Australia, we like to shorten people's names and put a Y or an O on the end. So just so you know who I'm talking about when I say Eki. Basically, the thinking component of the teaching, I'm having a lot of success with, and it's changed my life dramatically. I have times when I'm not thinking much at all, and it's great. It's just fantastic. And I listen to Eki on the way to work and back every day to Sydney, and I just love it. It's such a pure teaching, and it resonates with a lot of my other teachings, mostly through AA. Where I have trouble is with emotions. Specifically, and Eki talks about this, and it's the unconscious mental emotional states. So they go under the radar, so to speak, and I don't pick them up until sometimes it's too late. So they're subconscious or unconscious thought patterns or assumptions about life that I find that very difficult. And that's an ongoing thing. And I'm thinking when Reenah was talking about the topic, and there was a bit of we were a bit unsure about what the topic was, which was great for me, because if I had a secure cemented topic, I would have thought about it for the last 3 days. So it's been great. So it was great. It was almost like the topic was we're not going to have a topic. So that was good for me. So those are probably the two things that have come up. I'm interested in how people remain detached, or when these strong mental, emotional, almost unconscious states come into your life. I get lost in them still, so it's an ongoing thing, and usually they're quite strong. They're sort of emotions that you if you admit to them, like the shadow self, if you were to not resist them and totally open to them, you don't seem like a very nice person. And so I relate to what Reenah was saying. I'm a bit of a people pleaser, so I tend to not want to be like that, so I shut it off. So that's sort of where I'm at on the path. But it's great to be free of the conscious thinking, and to know that that's not who I am, and to be able to detach from that. I laugh a lot more. I laugh at myself mostly, some of the thoughts that come up in my head. So that's been a real freedom So yeah, thank you for listening.
Please take your time to come in. There's no hurry just when something arises.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah. You have to be a bit patient with my language problems. I just listened to Eckart's meditation, and he talked about the stillness behind the words, and I thought about that we are usually we get into the things we say subconsciously, so we are not present when we're talking. So that's why I wanted to tell you first that I might have some problems with the language, but I will talk slowly. It's really nice to be here with all of you. So nice to see Ray also. I have written to him, so it's nice to see him and hear his voice. And also Jordan and Reenah and Gary. I didn't know that you lived in Sydney, Gary. I thought you lived in America. Yes. Oh, it's difficult to decide what to talk about. Well, yeah, I was listening to you, Ray, when you talked about the shadow. I think the shadow part of us. And I think since the internet came, it's really easy to hide in the shadow also. But I feel it's like two streams in me. I have this lucid self, my day-to-day self, and then there is a shadow side also. But I really like that side also. But it's really interesting to see that there are like two streams in us. I suppose everybody has that. But to the topic of the day, if we are allowing, I have to read it again, I have it here written. I think we have a lot of fear, perhaps, to live fully. You said, Reenah, are we cutting off short from allowing our research to touch every aspect of our life deeply? And I really don't know. It's really interesting topic to discuss. I feel sometimes that I'm not living fully because I'm scared of a lot of things. What would happen if I really did what I think I would like to do, but somehow somehow I think we still live the way we are supposed to live, even if we have a lot of thoughts that perhaps I should do this and perhaps I should do that. I think we're really in the right place at the moment. And I think just being in the forum for me has been so great due to since I don't have very many people around me which I can talk about these things about. So it's really, really nice to have met all of you. We feel like a warm, loving family. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrin.
Could I interject if I could?
Yes, go ahead, Gary.
Well, first I wanted to thank Catherine for such an open expression of how she feels, and I feel very much connected to what she said. And I just had a question rather than a comment, if I could. When you said that in your normal day-to-day life, there weren't people outside of this forum who you could connect these sorts of ideas with. Could you elaborate on that a bit and say, is it that these belief structures aren't widely held where you live, or are they not met with enthusiasm or with open minds? Could you, if you would, elaborate on that a bit? Because I understand how you feel. I just wanted to know more about that, how that works.
Okay, can I answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really don't feel the need to talk about the people I have around me day to day about these things, since I have you guys. But I still feel that the love and the presence that I have been given, not only through the forum, but also which I have within, they are expressed without me needing to talk about them. I feel such a fantastic connection with people at work, with old people here in the village, and I really don't need to talk about spirituality. I more feel it like it evaporates from me every day. It's like a gift. But it's really nice to have also people like you that it's possible to talk about these things with. I don't know if this was an answer to your question.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's something has happened during the last 2 or 3 years. I feel so connected with all people I meet. It's really strange, but I don't feel the need to talk about it. I'm just living.
I can feel how
Thank you.
connected. I can feel how connected you are with everybody, Katrin. Who else?
Well, maybe I say something. I think so very early on, for me, this real interest has been how to live this. You know, I mean, how does this translate into everyday life? And I think I've shared many times before that I suddenly found myself on a spiritual path was kind of a surprise. And so I think within the very first days, I said to myself, if I cannot really translate this into everyday living, what's the use of this? And I think this is really the direction of the journey, and probably it's, you know, the focus is maybe a little, it's different or apparently different for all of us. But for me, really, it has been, how does it translate into everyday life? And you know, I mean, I came about a quote of St. John of the Cross, which I think is so telling, and it says, "In order to arrive at the point where you do not know, where you know not, you must go by a way of you do not know." And that has translated, if you will, into my guidance or into my mantra, because ever so often we have to ask ourselves, the things we do, the things we believe, are they really true? Are they really true? and why are we doing them? And you know, I mean, this is I think this is probably what translates or how it translates into my daily life. How can I question? You know, I mean, how can I really question what I'm doing day to day? And what are the insights connected to this? And it's pretty amazing what's coming up. And you know, it is a process. And again, I think it's different with all of us, but there's probably really analogies. And it is where it first really is on a relatively safe mental plane, where you have, you know, and all these wonderful insights, and it changes your life really a lot, because you're able to detach, and you're able to see what does your ego do. But at a certain point in time, and this is, I think, where many of us are right now, then it also happens that you know, your ego structure has dissolved, but the conditioning is still there. And that translates into emotions, into pain, into contractions, in all sorts of different and rather unpleasant feelings, until you really get used to it. But it takes a while, because there is certainly feelings associated, like anger or like fear. In my case, it's mostly fear. And that is maybe the part where I think we all could do a little bit more in terms of really letting this out. You know, I mean, the shadow side of spirituality, as they call it, allowing ourselves to be open about this, because it takes a while until you understand why you have those things, and that they are not. That's not something you need to reject, but quite in the contrary, really embrace. So really, you know, I mean, this is going by a way you do not know, and obviously, what we're all learning is to let go of our sense of safety, or our need for safety, really, which is not such an easy thing to do, but you know, getting better with this.
Yes, I remember with talking with the nun. She says the more we allow, the more dirty laundry comes up, until all of humanity comes there. Somehow it's lived through and felt in our bodies.
This is really certainly true, and I think this is also where the difficulty comes in.
I'd just like to say, just sitting here and listening to you guys, I feel so at peace, and I don't really feel like I have a need to say anything, but at the same time, I'd like to share a little bit. And so, when it comes to um, how this comes in and kind of affects my everyday life, and letting it affect all of my life fully, um, I find that what's important for me is not trying to kind of force it into every area of my life, but more of notice when it's there. And that's been really big for me. Just letting it flow into my life. And I noticed over the years that more and more it comes by itself, and I don't have to so much try at spirituality. And I find that if I try less, then it comes more naturally by itself. And yeah, thank you. I was going to say something, Kayla.
I forgot what it was. Sorry.
Sorry.
Never mind.
That's all right.
There was a delay. I couldn't see that you were talking.
Yeah.
Well, I think you said something quite interesting, was that you weren't looking to necessarily change fundamentally your life experience and of who you were, but you let yourself become part of a flow. You know, because I think very often at the outset of these type of spiritual journeys, we're looking. I know when I started, probably when I was around 13, it was a very odd sort of path for people to take. It wasn't. In my country, it's really not part of the mainstream at all. Really, it's not. It's not a widely accepted view. Um, and so it was much more difficult in those days. And I think I was looking to, um, somehow transform into some sort of bodhisattva, or some kind of a sadhu or something like that. I don't know, like maybe I'd be like Master Chang from Kung Fu, would always know the right answer to any situation that it came about. But then it became more about, not that I don't make mistakes, and that I don't have feelings. I think feelings are a big part of why the universe chooses to experience itself through us. Um, Scientifically, I think that's the only explanation for why we're here, is a realization of something much bigger. So, it's okay to have our feelings, and now actually I enjoy my feelings much more. I think it's just more of a process of watching yourself. So okay, well, there's Gary having these feelings of, you know, maybe love, or these feelings of frustration, or here's Gary doing this, and here's Gary trying to achieve this other thing. And it's just more watching, watching yourself do what you do, and trying to grow a bit through that process. But those days of looking for that huge transformation, I don't think that happens in the course for most of us in a particular given lifetime. It's something that maybe happens over a series of lifetimes. Not that everyone here would subscribe to that, but I do. And I feel that maybe in another 20 or 30 lifetimes or so, that I could be the sort of person who has that sort of total awakening or full realization. But it's certainly not something that I'm going to press myself into this time around. So I think there's a lot. I resonate quite a bit with what you said. You kind of let it flow. You just kind of learn to take the ride. Just be mindful of the ride, where the ride's going, and how you feel about that. And being connected with the things around you. And I think if I were to come out of it just with more of a sense of oneness with the people and creatures around me, and the world around me, then I feel like I would have accomplished a good deal maybe this time around, just to feel that connection. And I think that's what most of us get conditioned early on in life to lose. We withdraw more within ourselves and less open to putting ourselves out there for other people. So anyway.
Thank you, Gary. Are we finding that the more we accept, somehow the more we embody the collective? A lot of spiritualists may bypass this, and are we finding that when all of this collective stuff comes up, that we embody it, like in a way that we don't have to disconnect from anything? Like, what is the, also I wanted us to look at really the transformation in our lives. Transformation is not a temporary thing, so to speak. It's a sustainable thing, and some things, you know, to look at ourselves honestly, you know, I feel like we're discovering authenticity and what is the real shifts, and when something contracting comes up, are we just saying, oh yes, I'm just noticing this? How do we look at all this?
Big questions. It's big questions, Reenah. You know, short answer from me. I think it's really, this is what I see, and it's of course a limited view, but what I see is it's different in everybody, but it takes place in everybody. Because if you start to look around, and if you even start to see in people that usually still have a very dense ego, you know, I mean, still there, you see moments of recognition, and I see more and more and more people actually, you know, going into a process of transformation, and it's not necessarily always the classical spiritual searches route. You know, I mean, you have people with burnout, you have people that are sick, and so on and so forth. And, you know, I mean, that can be very much an entry into this transformation process. In terms of those of us who are already in a process of transformation, I think it's a choice in a way. I don't know how much conscious or unconscious it is, but I think we can go as far as we feel comfortable with. And then there may be some, and, you know, truth is all they may be looking for, and others may say, you know, I mean, I take it a little slower, and everything is fine. You know, I mean, it's I think nobody really needs to push themselves, because the one thing I've learned is we cannot do this wrong. It's impossible. We cannot do it wrong. But there are things to know, and it is important to be conscious of what's happening and to know what's going on, because it makes the whole ride a whole lot easier. And where the bypassing is coming in, and I think we all do that, because I think we all need to be honest with really honest about this. It's coming in when we try to grab and hold on to the pleasant experiences. Because simply this is how we are conditioned. You know, I mean, we do not go out and go and look for the not so pleasant experiences, or try to, you know, I mean, go in the direction of the not so pleasant experiences. But remember what I said. In order to arrive at a point where you know not, you must go by a way you do not know. I think is really something that's very good to remember. And on top of it, of course, you know, I mean, the very simple methodologies of simply staying present and being with what is. And I think that's all really one needs to know.
So let's look at comfort and choice.
Yeah, I'm really relating to what Jordan was saying about just letting it flow. And then, Reenah, you started talking about conditioning and the collective conditioning that we all experience. But when Jordan was talking, all I could think of was, I have enough of my own conditioning, let alone, I don't want any collective conditioning. I've got enough. It's been a struggle for me. Hopefully I'm getting to the point where I can stop struggling and stop fighting. In the past, I've tried to let go and just let life flow, and Ray takes over again, and when I run on self-will, my life quickly becomes a train wreck. It's happened in the past, so there has been talk about fear. To go totally deeply, there's a fear of what could happen. So there's all this stuff going around, but the conditioning for me is the key to being free. Like I said before, I'm quite. I mean, it's quite easy for me to disidentify from my mind, because basically my head is my worst enemy. I don't know if you relate to what I'm saying here. It comes up with some crazy ideas, dysfunctional thought patterns, and they still arise even 15 years into this journey. So I've come to be able to not act on them and even laugh at them, like I said. But there seems to be this deeper conditioning that is much more powerful, and I could be the pain body when it gets triggered as well. The further I go into Ecky's teaching, the more confused I'm becoming, because underneath there's this resistance to it. There's this strong shadow, like we talked about the shadow. That is, for me, it's good and bad. It seems to be where all my passion comes from as well, and my motivation and drive. So it's all the good things as well. So Adyashanti talks about it. I think, like what Gary was saying, even the bodhisattvas can have this struggle with this passion, this underlying. I think Katrin called it. There's two parts to her, and somehow to get these two parts to become whole. Because at the moment there's this struggle, and I'm so relating to Jordan. That's the way to go, is to let go and to let it flow. So I would like to hear more about how he does that, and if his head tells him that not to do that, how his head reacts to that, because that seems to come from the heart, is what he's saying. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Just a note here that when we speak of collective conditioning, well, collective conditioning is our conditioning, so I invite us to depersonalize. And you said something really wonderful there about how spiritual teachings can bring about a confusion. Let's look at this. Does anyone else experience that?
I think at first, I did run into a lot of that confusion when I got originally into Eastern mysticism, which I think is the ground of what most of we discuss here in terms of where Eckhart gets his ideas and his notions from, which obviously I subscribe to. But some of the messages can be a bit mixed. Eckhart read from the Bhagavad Gita a couple of months ago and did an exquisite job of reading from it, but you can see a lot of, if you don't, initially you can run into a good bit of difficulty trying to reconcile some of the seemingly opposing ideas that come from teachings. Like, obviously, that one of the main ideas in the teachings of the Gita obviously is a nonviolent life structure, but it takes place in the middle of the most violent of scenes. And there's a person who recoils from the violence and says, "Oh dear, Lord Krishna, I don't want to go into this battle and take part in this carnage." And what does Krishna tell him is that You have to go in and take part of the carnage because it's your dharma to be part of this, and it's your dharma to work your way through this and to do your duty. So and you run into these conflicting ideas, and at first it puts you through a good deal of stress, like Ray was talking about. Um, I have this conditioning, so what do I do with this conditioning? Because I'm being told to become free from conditioning. But you know that this conditioning, we have group conditioning, but all of us, for the most part, if you subscribe to any of this, came into this life highly conditioned from many lifetimes before. When you talk about the ego and the pain body is the ahamkara, as you would call in those traditions, and that's exactly what the pain body is. And the ahamkara brings with it sanskar, which is habit, which is your proclivity to act in certain ways. So, we all struggle with that. I struggle with it. I think all of us do. And so, Ray, I don't think what you're feeling um, is that different, certainly from what I would feel, and when I look at myself and say, how can I rid myself of some of this sign scar that I've picked up, and how can I rid myself from the expectations of the society that I was raised in? Um, each of us can look at, culturally, we're all a bit different. My society that I was raised in is really very primitive compared to the societies that you all live in. So yeah, I have that. I have that issue in the United States. You wouldn't believe how primitive ideas have become in the last 25 or 30 years in terms of spirituality. So I find most of the people that I resonate with on this website, are people who I feel free to speak to about these sorts of things. Where the only people I can talk to about this in my society are my sons, because most of the people I know believe in this being that has a set of this man in the sky that has feet and hands and wandered through the garden wondering where Adam and Eve got off to. Uh, you know, it's that's it's a much more primitive way of looking at it than what I find speaking to you all there. So anyway, Ray, I guess to wrap that up, to give someone else the chance to talk, I know exactly the feelings you're feeling, but I think we all do, and if we're honest with ourselves.
Thanks, Gary. Jordan, I was wondering how you feel about Eastern mysticism. I mean, you're a younger generation, and in many ways, you keep us oldsters very real here, because you sort of have less in the background, right? And
Yes. Um, when it comes to Eastern mysticism, um, I guess I've been interested in that sort of thing for a very long time. Well, as far as my life goes, for most of my life, and or for a large part of my life, um, and it has definitely affected me a lot. Going back to Ray's question, specifically the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu has affected me a lot. Just one thing I'd like to say, you said these ideas you have that kind of come from the ego and end up running your life, and really can be very destructive ideas, and end up in sort of causing like a train wreck, as you say. I definitely have my share of these ideas that come and for months at a time, sometimes many months, will sort of be the driving force in my life. And um, but I find that ultimately, when my life starts to become a train wreck due to um, any sort of unconscious pattern or set of ideas, um, I've learned that that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that's what brings me back to spirituality and what brings me back to the teaching. Um, when my life becomes a train wreck, and then I come to also sort of a confusion and not knowing how to keep my life centered on what's important, and at the same time live my life and do what I need to do in the world, I find that it's okay to be confused, and it's good to have that experience of the train wreck, so that you know that being confused isn't so bad if you can let go of needing to run your life and needing to fix things. Then being in a place of confusion can actually be very powerful, or in a place of not knowing what to do. And that's where the Tao Te Ching comes in for me. It's been a very big help, and um, its its main idea is to not try to force things. Basically, it's almost an anti-teaching, because it tries to get you to let go of your spiritual ideas of I should fix this or I should fix that, through being present, or through, I mean, because even those ideas are just ideas. And if you think you're going to fix your life, um, that can sometimes end up in being its own problem, trying to fix things. And you need to really become present. I think you need to be able to let go of those ideas of needing to be present. It's kind of paradoxical, but that's what I've found has really helped me be able to let go of even spiritual things and let your conditioning happen, because you can't beat down evil. You have to step out of the way. Thank you.
When you look at what's important, do you look at the way comfort and choice play out in your life, Jordan?
I'd say for me, being comfortable is relatively important. I usually um, hmm, when comfort becomes important to me, I find that or when comfort becomes the main important thing, which often means um, being comfortable can mean being comfortable with yourself, or um, being enlightened, I imagine, would be a very comfortable state.
I
And
guess
so
what I'm
that's
asking,
often, um,
I guess what
yes.
I'm asking is, does comfort block your choice? The range of your choices?
Mm-hmm. Um, I think comfort is an influence um, on my choices, and it does limit it, I would say. But I have to kind of let myself be attracted to comfort, because if I try to let go of comfort, that attraction to comfort, if I try to say I don't need to be comfortable, I don't need uh, I don't need those things that bring comfort, then ultimately that's seeking a different form of comfort and sort of trying to be free of comfort. So for me, it's just letting myself be limited in a way. And then comfort it's somewhat, and it affects my decisions, but it's not total. I also take into account what's kind of uh, in the long run important, or and definitely what's um, when it comes to following the teaching, following spirituality.
So
makes
anybody,
sense.
does anybody else find comfort is somehow influencing them to make a choice, or do we tell ourselves that we have no choice in this?
I guess this is where the conditioning is coming in, isn't it? Because our conditioning is all around being safe, which means comfortable. And it's not, I don't think it's really conscious decisions in terms of, you know, I'm here at a choice point, either to go in a way that doesn't feel okay with me, or it does. You know, I mean, it comes back to not knowing. You know, I mean, whenever I'm at the choice point, and there is the old way, the old route, the habitual movement that of knowing, then, you know, I mean, habitually I will want to go for that. But this is what I said before. This is where the inquiry is coming in terms of, is it really necessary? Is it really necessary, and is it really what I want to do? And then there may be choices that deliberately, quite deliberately, take a path of not knowing. And that can be relatively uncomfortable to some point, simply because of that, because you do not know. And you meet all your insecurities and the fears and the emotions and whatnot. But I think it's really important to be conscious about this, and it's maybe turning it around. It's not saying where is my most comfortable choice, but rather where is my habitual choice, and simply try something else.
Katrin, I hope you're understanding this, and we're speaking slow enough for you.
Yeah,
And
yes, you are. I'm really finding myself. When Ray spoke, I thought, okay, my mind said, okay, I want to talk about the shadows, and then when Gary started talking about all the spirituality in his youth, and then I wanted to say something about that. And when Jordan spoke, I wanted to comment on that. And then suddenly I felt it didn't matter what you said, because it was just your presence that's so lovely. But you asked, does comfort?
yes, I'm just wondering what's your experience with choice point? Do you find choice point in your life? For example, if you notice contraction arising, somehow we can embody this contraction, right? And
Yeah.
I guess we have a choice to inquire into this, and whether we run with that thought of that, or whether we go into believing it and run with the story. I'm wondering whether you experience any choice points.
Yeah, I always have discussions with myself about choice. But you said, does I have to watch what you said. What did you say? Does comfort block my choice?
Yes, for
I would
example.
say that also, yes, comfort and fear, but also concern for people around me. That blocks my choice very often. Can you ask me something more?
So, for example, I'll give you all an example of where comfort blocks my choice. Like
Yeah.
I would be on the forum for a long time, for a couple of years, and I'd be sharing some pretty amazing spiritual concepts,
Yeah.
and somehow believing in that. And then I had an opportunity for months to be on video, but it just felt too uncomfortable, you know. So I stayed with my comfort of my no,
Okay.
rather than making the choice and going with the yes movement to see what would unfold and somehow trust. So, I mean, I'm sure everyone experiences this in a different way, but I'm just wondering if anyone else experiences or has a similar thing.
Yeah, but you finally went on video, even if you said no the last time.
Well, I eventually decided. It doesn't matter if I look silly anymore or
No.
whatever. You know, I can just be myself. But yes, certainly, it was a bit of a eye opener to see what was real in my life and what have I embodied and what has really transformed for me through these teachings. And
Yeah.
so much I can get. I think in the past I would get lost in concepts of even an idea of oneness and not really noticing what was really here now in this body happening here in this experiencing. So rather than jumping from this to that, you know,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, I
and
feel somehow I have left all the spiritual concepts. I'm not that interested in concepts anymore, but I still like to listen to spiritual talks, and I like to, but it's somehow more integrated in me now, so I don't need it as much. But I have been in a choice position, do you say that? For many years, when I have denied what I know, what I would like to do in order to, due to concern and comfort and fear. And I'm seeing that so much more clearly now. And that's really, like Gary said, I'm watching a lot from a more now, from a distant place somehow. It's difficult to explain. I think you know what I mean, all of you. It's like living in two dimensions at the same time, kind of. Thank you.
Reenah, I have one that's a bit of an example of what you were saying. This was early on in my spiritual path. I hit the wall through gambling, and I had to surrender. And I went to Gamblers Anonymous, and I was starting to get a bit of freedom from the addiction of gambling. And I had a mentor there, and she was discussing with me, you know, what job should I get, and I come up with the great idea of being an accountant. Uh, which is probably not a good idea for a gambler. So she said no, and she said, you're a real good listener, and you should try counselling. And I thought that was the most absurd thing I'd ever heard, you know. I thought, no, there's no way I could do that. That would be so uncomfortable. But eventually I sort of gave the idea a go, and I stayed home and looked after the boys when they were 1 and 2, and did the correspondence course. And now I still get uncomfortable when I meet a new client. It's nerve-wracking, and it's such a commitment too. So yeah, so that is, so over the years I'm learning to step into that uncomfortable space, and like I think Jordan said, if you can do that, and not know and go ahead and do the action anyway, you know, amazing things happen. and that seems to be. But this is where my problem lies: is that I'll feel like that, and I'll go to bed feeling at one with the universe, but I'll wake up the next day and I'm an agnostic again. I don't know if anyone understands that. And so I have to start all over again.
Yes.
You know, so I'm always uncomfortable.
Yes.
So thank you.
Gary, you look like you understood that.
No, yeah, I understand. You know, that comfort. I guess here we call it comfort zone. I suppose you know you have this comfort zone, and for me, it was a bit of an advantage. I think I was born with. I was born into pretty much very nearly abject poverty. I didn't have a comfort zone. I didn't feel comfortable any place. I didn't feel as though I belonged anywhere, in particular. So all these little things that don't seem like trials and tribulations to other people were tremendous obstacles for me. So I still have a tendency toward that now. It's like, you know, okay, I'll try a new way of doing this. I'll try, you know, coming at life from obtuse angles. You know, not coming at it in a traditional sense of looking at things, in a traditional way of doing things. Now, in business, that's been great for me because I've come at people from angles they never expected, which was tremendously successful. In a social setting, it makes me a bit odd, you know. So, you know, because people don't know how to take that. You know, you don't necessarily share the notions that they're expecting you to share, and maybe you see something different in it. So, in one respect, I think not having a comfort zone because I still struggle with those things that other people would say are easy to do, not easy for me to do. You know, I just spent a week climbing rocks out in Arizona, you know, and they had these sheer, you know, cliffs, you know, and these other people, they're 15, 20 years older than me charging up the cliffs. And I'm like, God, it's getting close to dark. What if I get up there and get lost and get eaten by mountain lions? You know, these other people weren't worried about these things, you know. So I'm like, all right, Gary, you know, get up there and climb the mountain with these other people. You know, they're certainly less capable than you are physically, but I was less capable mentally. You know, just as big of an impediment. You know, but then again, I forced myself to. Yeah, but once again, you know, there's a great deal of fear that sometimes goes with that. But um, do I end up in every case choosing the comfort? In little things like drinking this coffee all the time, yeah, I choose comfort all the time. I love drinking coffee. I do it, you know. Do I choose comfort on big decisions? There you go. Do I choose comfort on big decisions? Very seldom. You know, but so I guess it's a mixed bag. You know, but I certainly know how it feels to say, you know, I'm afraid. I think the biggest thing that I'm afraid of in life is myself. You know, as letting myself down. You know, and letting the people around me down by not giving enough and not sharing my explorations with other people and inviting other people to explore with me. You know, and so once again, got the comfort zone, and then I got the areas where I'm able to overcome comfort zones. So I'm a work in progress.
Beautiful, Gary. Thank you. 6 people, a circle of friends, beautiful interaction. And it's this now, it's this circle. I can see in everybody's faces that everybody's feeling it, that connectedness and that love and that respect for each other's sharings. Thank you, dear friends, for being here and for sharing and just showing up and showing yourself and sharing as it is. Just sharing on our own experiences, and I certainly hope we can inspire some other friends to come out and share as well. So thank you. Everyone say goodbye.
Well, thank you, Reenah, for organizing this. This is always such a joy. It's really such a beautiful thing to be together, as you say, the circle of friends, and to look in the faces of people in 3 continents. It never ceases to amaze me. So thank you once again for bringing us together.
Yeah, thank you, Reenah. Thank you, everyone. It's been amazing. I was reading the forum this morning while I was waiting. It's a bit of addiction sometimes. But I was Benno was mentioning something about conditioning, and he said it's kind of like we're in a box. I think is what he said, and I had a therapist once who talked about this, and he said you are stuck in a box, and the instructions on how to get out of the box are on the outside of the box. So you need other people. You need other people. So thank you.
It's really good to be here. I've so much enjoyed just the presence of everybody. It's so beautiful. At the beginning I said the same thing. I don't feel like there's a need to say anything even, sitting here with you all. And we just had that long moment of silence. And I remember back on a Skype talk, I used to feel sort of uncomfortable when there was this silence and there should be something happening. But now it's just, it's beautiful to have that space. I think it's what it's all about. So thank you everybody.
And it's really also amazing to see that the feeling I have gotten from seeing you write and post in the forum, it's really what I feel now when I see you and meet you. And I love the silent period we had. It was really nice. So thank you very much for letting me be here and meet you all in the middle of the night.
Well, thank you, Reenah, for pulling this together, and all the lovely people here for joining and opening up your hearts to one another and sharing this time with each other. I'm very grateful to each of you.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Lots of love.
Bye-bye.
Lots of love.
Yes.
In your heart, maybe you should give your mind a rest and put its main assumption to the test. Just let go and see who leads the best.